Um, Can't add anything to the agenda, I know that.
No, unfortunately not, no.
And so, so we never talked about what we were going to put on it, so I know there's some stuff missing. So next month, or
Yeah,
whenever the next
I'll
meeting
talk,
is?
because I know a lot of them are not at the point of ready to be presented, but we could talk about that after the meeting with you.
Okay. Okay, so with that, does anybody need any changes to any of the items, up or down? Not seen any, so if we leave as is, I don't think we need a motion then, right? Okay, we're moving forward. With that, call to the public. Is anybody online that wishes to speak? No? Okay. So can I do a 3-minute just things, or is that not? Okay, just a couple of things I wanted to point out. This coming Saturday is National Trail Day, and since we're all sort of big on open space type stuff, I want to make sure everyone's aware of that. And for those that can't participate, there'll be an event at Lost Dog Trailhead. We're just going to be doing some trail maintenance out there, putting in some way marker signs, that type of stuff. And the other thing is, it's not on the agenda.
Mr. Chair, real quick, if you don't mind, on that item, is there a time and is it Saturday?
It's this coming Saturday, June 7th is National Trail Day. Obviously, it's an all-day event. For the event that's going to be at Lost Dog Trailhead, that'll be from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. So trail maintenance will be happening through that whole time. At 10 a.m., we'll ask people to come off the trail. We don't want anybody actually on trail between, after 11. The Frontera Land Alliance will be doing a guided hike between 8:30 and 10. And the We Hike group will be doing a safety presentation on just outdoor safety in general for anybody that would like to be out there. So various groups tabling and just a celebration of, enjoying our trails and what El Paso has to offer. Okay, and so on the next thing I want to bring up, I don't know if you call it the Fort Bliss or whoever, but Casner Range had their meeting last night on what's happening out over in the Northeast properties. My understanding is they are out there today already dropping off equipment to start their, not the remediation, but the survey of the land to determine if there are munitions out there that are going to need to be remediated. So for anybody that does stuff out in the Northeast, be aware that you're going to find people out there in their safety vests running this big dolly thing, for lack of a better way to say it. They say they're going to try to be as careful as they can around the plants, but you're going to see people out there. You're going to see flagging out there. And so different types of things happening in Northeast. And this will probably be ongoing 6 to 8 months maybe. So expect it to be a long process. They are going to start by that fire station there. They start at MLK, and they basically survey all the way up to the mountain. Then they go 100 feet down and do it all over again. And when it's all said and done, it's about 70 miles worth of survey, so it takes a while. All right, so I don't know if I had any other items that I wanted to bring out to the public, but those are the ones that I can think of off the top of my head if there's any questions on those. All right. Let's see, so now we're on to the minutes for April 2nd. So did everybody have a chance? And we're actually 2 months back, because I believe we had a change to April 2nd.
Correct, Mr. Chair. On the item, I believe it's item 8, if I'm not mistaken, it just had Bear Ridge. So I listened to the meeting because I wasn't able to be at that meeting, and then hopefully I captured what was discussed.
Yeah, you did. It looks, it's much more descriptive now.
Okay.
I had forgotten I talked about that.
Okay.
Okay, so with that, are you good to put a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the April minutes.
So we have a motion to approve. I need a second.
I'll second that.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is anybody opposed? All right, April 2nd meetings are approved. With that, we'll move on to the May 7th minutes. And has everybody had a chance to read those? And does anybody have any changes or wishes to put a motion forward?
I think item 8 is going to be a problem child. In this case, it's item 9. There's just one discrepancy in there, the description of where the new road is being cut on the western slope of the mountain. It's on Stanton between Festival and Mesa Hills. It says on here, new road being cut Western Hills, Franklin Drive.
Okay, so it's new road being cut between Stanton, between,
On Stanton, off of Stanton, between Festival and Mesa Hills. And I think we're going to talk about that later in today's agenda.
okay, I believe, Mr. Chair, if that's the only change, we can approve
Yeah.
it with that modification.
So, yeah, you'd have to put a motion forward to approve with that change.
Yeah, I'll move to approve with the before stated change.
Okay, so I would need a second. All right, so,
Second.
I got a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is anybody opposed? All right. May 7th meetings are approved. That takes us to item 5, report from the Planning Division subdivision. So I'm guessing that's the city presentation?
This is a city presentation. It has actually been a little while, so I asked staff to go back since the beginning of the year to present on subdivision items that were approved. And so we'll get back on the regular schedule to brief the OSAB on these. So Mr. Alex Alejandre, one of our subdivision staff, will be presenting this report.
All right. And it looks like he knows how to work the clicker, so he's already like 50% there, man.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the board. Alex Alejandre with Planning and Inspections. Item 5 on the agenda is an update regarding the approved subdivisions for the 2025 approved within the mountain development area. There is a total of 5 approved subdivisions as of today. 4 of those 5 subdivisions are located within the hillside development area. The combined acreage among all 5 is 60.8, and I will go in detail each one of them at a time. The first subdivision is Pinnacle Subdivision Replat B. The subdivision is located east of Stanton and east of Festival Drive. Here we have an aerial view of the subject property highlighted in orange within the mountain development area. The applicant proposed to re-subdivide 45.7 acres to create a subdivision comprising of 13 single-family lots and 4 private open space lots. All streets within the subdivision are private, and primary access to the subdivision will be from Stanton Street. Moving on to the second subdivision, which is...
Hang on, I think, yeah. Let's ask questions as we go to each one, because that'll be better in our mind. So I think, Stephen, you had something?
Just for my own information, like there's lots, and then you said that there's like 4 private areas. Are those like parking spaces or parks or?
They're
like,
gonna remain as open space, undisturbed.
Okay.
No structures will be placed on those lots.
So can you show us on that, that is the map there, right? Yeah, that's
Correct.
the one. So when they say, so are we
So
talking?
it might not be as clear, but it will be the shaded areas.
Like the gray ones?
The gray ones. Maybe I should have highlighted them, but.
No, that's okay. So, and what you're telling us is, it is not parkland or, what we would consider parks is, the grass and the swing set type stuff. It's gonna remain natural vegetation the whole bit that way.
Correct, undisturbed.
Okay. Understood. But still privately owned.
Yes.
Okay.
So on this one, Alex, are those being preserved, if you will, by the plat?
Yes, they are being reserved by the plat.
Okay, so on there, they are identified as open space, so that's sort of locking them in as open space and to restrict development there on those areas. So again, to Alex's point, they're not going to be disturbed. They're going to remain in their natural state. No structures will be allowed to be built there. The only thing, obviously, there will have to be some grading for the roadway and for the houses that go up there, but it won't go beyond that.
Okay. Anything else, Stephen?
That's it.
Todd? Joseph? Mark? Can you do you have where is the state boundary line? Is there something above this? Is this as high up as they can go, or do you know?
Can you go to the aerial?
So where's the state park boundary line in relation to this?
What we can do, Mr. Chair, is we can send a map showing where this is, because this is getting obviously closer to the
Yeah, I
State
mean,
park.
obviously, from our standpoint, open space, we want to try to, and so I'm wondering, I mean, can they go, how much higher up the mountain can you go? Because this is actually pretty damn high up the mountain when you look at it.
It is. If you go to the layout again, please, Alex, I think the way it's proposed in terms of the roadways is they're obviously dead ending, so they're not going to be extended. So at least from this point here, and then it's going to be limited to how much can be developed even further up, because it gets pretty rough up there.
Ever seen the GIS, like El Paso GIS website?
Okay,
I think it's like the source of truth, and I'm not fast enough to grab it just yet, but I can probably show you a little bit after the meeting and sort of, we can start to define where the line really is, because you're right, like, to be honest, it's not, there's no action here, it's just sort of information, but
Yes.
I was also pretty surprised at how high it was.
yes.
If you allow Alex maybe to go on to the next one, what I can do is, as he's presenting, I can pull up the map
Okay.
and show where it's at in relation.
And then, so one other question is relation to this. How do they get water? Is there a water tower above this, or do they have to pump their water up?
The proposed, they extended water services, but the proposed method would be through on-site ponding. And then
No, I believe, Alex, for the water service.
Yeah, because I mean, naturally, normally you have to have a water tower above any subdivision for water to get there, but I know some houses that actually have to pump their own water up. So I'm wondering here, because I don't think there's a water tower above these guys right now.
So based on El Paso Water comments, there is an existing pumping system designed to provide at least pressure for the proposed development.
Okay,
They were in agreement, they did not object to the proposed development, but once again, there is an existing pumping system.
existing is good, so basically, they're not gonna have to have any more structures to service this subdivision.
Correct, Chair.
Okay,
And
all right. I think we went around, so if you go ahead and go to the next one, please.
So the next subdivision is McCallican Business Center. The subdivision is located west of Alabama Street and north of Fort Boulevard. Here's an aerial view of the subject property highlighted in orange within the hillside development area. And for this one, the applicant proposed to subdivide 1.05 acres to create one commercial lot. Access to the subdivision will be from Alabama Street. Questions on this one?
Stephen, Todd, anybody? Could you just put it up again? I haven't quite visualized where that is on Alabama. I'm trying to get an idea.
It's right in the corner.
McKellican Canyon, so, okay, that's right there. Okay. There's that apartment complex there. Okay,
Northwest of
Good.
the intersection.
good enough. Thank you.
The next subdivision is Montecillo, Unit 8, Replat A. The subdivision is located south of Castellano Drive and west of Mesa Street. Here is an aerial view of the subject property highlighted in orange within the hillside development area. And on this one, the applicant proposed to re-subdivide 5.96 acres to create two commercial lots and a 1.23 acre private park. Access to the subdivision is from Castellano Drive, Vin Madrid Street, Vin Aragon Street, and Vin Faro Lane. Questions on this ones? On this one?
Now, look around again. So, private park?
Private park.
And so what does private park mean? I mean, I understand, I mean, they have to build a park, so does that mean public would not have access to this park?
Correct. The purpose is for the residents within the
Okay.
area.
Okay,
Yeah, one of the other reasons why sometimes they are elected to be private is so that they can maintain it as well. So sometimes it may be open to the public, but they want to maintain it for them. And so that might be a reason why they want to keep it as a private park instead of
Okay.
city.
do we have a lot of those?
They're not too many.
Okay.
They're not too many, actually. There are a few, a lot of the private subdivisions, maybe where it's gated, sometimes do in the city, but most of them are public. And because there has to be an entity at the end of the day who maintains it. And so it's either like a homeowners association or I would say typically it's like a homeowners association that may maintain it. But this one here, I believe it'll be a lot of the group who's building Montecillo, they'll be taking care of this.
Okay, And again, I'm just trying to visualize, is this like below where that Angry Al is, or is this
I believe this is closer to Top Golf.
Topgolf in that area?
Yeah, in that, roughly that area. A little bit further to the, was that further southeast of Top Golf.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Moving on to the next one is Montecillo Unit 7, Replat A. The subdivision is located south of Castellano Drive and west of Mesa Street. Here is an aerial view of the subject property highlighted in orange within the hillside development area. The applicant proposed to re-subdivide 6.91 acres for the development of one lot. Access to the subdivision is from Castellano Drive, Vin Madrid Street, and Vin Faro Lane. Any questions on this one?
So this one, Alex, if you go to the aerial, it does show Top Golf where it's at. It's just there on the left-hand side of the image there.
So Topgolf there. Okay, so basically they're just filling in that whole subdivision that they started out there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Oh.
Go ahead.
There's like mesas that are like higher in elevation, maybe just sort of southeast of Topgolf, but that's between like the mesa and the Topgolf, no?
Kevin, do you know now?
Yeah, I mean, the terrain out here is pretty, again, pretty extreme
It
in
doesn't look like it,
location,
just
so.
because the mesa itself has like vegetation on it, and it doesn't look like there's any vegetation. But is there any plans, like, are those mesas zoned differently, or are there any plans to like build on those, or no? Are they?
No current plan at the moment. It's, this one was just a proposal to just re-subdivide the property.
Right, okay.
So, but as part of the larger development, it had identified certain areas that were to be left as open space to preserve some of that. Some of the areas are proposed to be developed, and it's just a matter of these subdivisions coming in and when they're ready to develop. But they're being compliant with the master plan, if you will, for the entire area.
Okay. Yeah, I could see from here, it's a bit north of the mesas.
Yeah.
Okay, so between the Elmont and Topgolf. Okay.
The last subdivision is Richmart, Unit 4, Replat A. The subdivision is located west of Cotton Street and north of Murchison Drive. Here is an aerial view of the subject property highlighted in orange within the hillside development area. From this one, the applicant proposed to re-subdivide 1.18 acres in order to create a residential subdivision comprising of 2 single-family lots. Access to the subdivision will be from Rocky Bluff Road. Questions?
Yeah, and show me on the map, I want to make sure I have a good visualization of what we're talking about. Rocky Bluff. Scenic drive up there.
Oh, yeah, there's like that carve out of the mountain that it looks like they're extending into, that's right.
Yeah, that's what I want, so
Like
there's a
straight
building
west of
right
the-
in front of it, basically, right? And there's a carve out behind it? And that's where they're building?
Yeah, that's what it appears.
Their goal is just to split the current parcel into 2, and that is the reason why you see the irregular property line. This would be the new property line.
So you mean like there's still just one yellow line, but there's like that?
Yeah, the center line that's going in a loop, that will become the new property line. And the reason is for the property to comply with zoning requirements, as there's already existing structures.
Oh, okay, interesting.
And so those houses are gonna be behind that building, if I'm, what?
The buil-
Yeah, the building's there, so
Building's
what they're proposing
They're
to
already there.
construct is gonna be behind it.
They're
But
just,
I believe it may be to the south. If you look at the property line, if you can go to the plat, Alex, please. Yeah, so they're avoiding, well, actually maybe built to the left there.
To the left, okay. And so, that's the next question. Is there any pushing up against Scenic Drive, or is this gonna be, it's already carved out and they're just building on?
Yeah,
No, it
yeah.
was carved out. It might look, the visual might look like it, but it was already carved out. Once again, this is a re-subdivision. It was originally platted. They're just coming back.
So they're
once
not
again.
having to do any more taking
Oh.
down to the mountain to make, to
No.
get these lots, okay.
And they're not extending it past the original property, the original subdivision or the original lot. They're just carving the one lot that was already there into two.
Okay, and so, have they started work there? Because this tends to be a community that would also be a little more in tune to to things happening around them.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they've started. When they re-subdivide, they just have to meet the minimum requirements
Yeah.
of the code. And so once that's met, they can build today, they can wait 10 years.
So, yeah,
It's sort of up to them when they start the construction of the other one. I believe on this one, we probably notified Alex, the
Yes, we did.
neighborhood. So
so
a
the
number of
neighborhood
them-
was notified.
They were notified. Again, typically on these ones, we don't get too much comment on
Okay.
these, but it's not until they start moving dirt that people,
Well, that's what I'm wondering, I
Yeah.
think,
Well, this is interesting. There's two structures on the lot right now, as
Yeah.
I can see. And it looks like they're like carving a line in between the two to divide the one property into two.
yeah,
I don't know. Anyways, if it's one property, they could have done it 10 years ago.
oh, yeah, I think, the thing is, once they start, once, shovels hit, and so,
Yeah.
just a recommendation, when they get ready, if you know when the shovels hit, I would let the rep know, because I'm sure the residents are gonna call and say, what are you guys doing? These guys shouldn't be doing this, that whole bit. This tends to be a sensitive area,
yeah.
for lack
yeah.
of a better way to
Okay.
say it.
Appreciate that.
Any other questions, members?
Oh, you know what? There is a section, look, yeah. There's a section behind that second structure that is not yet, it's Natural Mountain.
Yeah.
But it looks like they might own. Let's see.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
an
think
expert.
they're carving, they're gonna be behind that building or off to the side of that building is what they're gonna be
They're
doing.
gonna-
They have to work within their property.
Yeah,
They cannot go beyond.
It's
True,
like
but-
you see those houses where you have that driveway that goes like between two houses and then they build a house behind it? I think that's kind of what you're seeing here.
Yeah, I think you're right, that like, it's theirs, we're just here for awareness anyways, but it's totally right. Like, if someone starts carving that section away, people are gonna be
They're gonna start
interested
asking
and-
what's
and
going
curious
on,
about
yeah.
what the hell's going on.
Because they're very accustomed to having that thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's already visible from the rest of
Yeah.
that area. You can already see that cutout in the mountain.
Alex, can you go to the first one, please? I have some information about where the location is of the state park.
Okay,
I found it too.
So maybe the plat. So if you look at the subdivision, it's actually on the upper portion there, that perpendicular line. That's generally where the state park is. So this is right against the state park.
okay. So
So
we could safely say that it cannot go any higher. This, you couldn't build above this subdivision.
Correct.
Okay.
There is, well, I can show you this later, but there is like it's here, there's an interesting cutout there, and then there's another one near it.
Yeah.
That I think already has a subdivision on it, I wanna say.
Yeah, some of them go up pretty, but that's probably as high as they can go up.
Yeah, but it kind of makes you wanna like scroll and,
Yeah, you
See
see
what
those
else.
little triangles popping up and stuff when they sold the property, they yeah, that's how we got the high house up in Northeast.
Any other questions?
I'm good. Everybody? All good.
Thank you, Chair. That
Thank
concludes
you.
my presentation.
And I think this brings you up, Stephen?
Yeah, I'm not gonna say much, except that I think Joseph and I were talking for a split second beforehand, and I have a link to share with you. But long story short, short of a couple things that are very like, do we put Kevin's name on the front of the page is one question for you in a second. It's there are little parentheses there, and then there's like the mission statement. It's ready to just pass off to IT and say, can you please emulate this to some extent? Because what's there in the mock-up and what will land will probably be visually different, but I'm hoping to sort of get close to like that organization.
Yeah, I think what we do, I know Jeremy is online right now. But I think what we could do is we can finalize that. I'll send you the mission statement
Yeah.
that I think was adopted last year, if I remember right. But it was part of the presentation I went to city council.
Yeah, and if somehow city council changes it before rubber stamping it, then we can
Yeah.
fix it, but.
Yeah, so we can
I'm-
send
I
that your
think
way.
Newer one's better.
And then I'll get in touch with Jeremy so that we'll see what we can do on our end to emulate that.
And then I think the one last thing I think I'll bring to a future agenda that I'll let you know beforehand if we're gonna talk about it would be like maybe a cyclical set of updates of like where people take a look at it and maybe every year or every couple of years to make sure that it's fresh.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And then obviously we'll have to work with the partner departments as well. So that's regular update. We want it to be accurate and as best we can. So whether it's showing trails, trailheads, the open space areas, some of the amenities I know that we've talked about in the past, just make sure it's accurate and then the public can understand what to expect as they enjoy these places.
Mhm. Sounds good. That's it. Any questions so far? No?
Nope, I'm
All right,
good.
Move on.
I'll set on the webpage. All right. So that was 5 and that was 6. So takes us to 7. Observations and stuff that we've seen out in the field. Stephen, anything?
Nope. Nothing to add.
Okay. Todd?
Nothing I can think of right now, no.
Okay. Joseph?
No.
No? Mark?
I didn't see much this month, so.
Okay.
Is the goal of this sort of like, this is on the agenda to, as like a regular thing we might go into every time now maybe, or?
Yeah, it's more as you or anyone sees things out there in the field, whether it's something that needs addressing, that you can let me know, so then I'll distribute that to the appropriate folks, and they can do either maintenance or follow-up action, just to help make these spaces beautiful and enjoyable for all, because often we as a city often react to things, and so the more information that we have, the sooner that we can react and address some of these issues that we see out there.
I have a question. Who handle like maze and cardiac? Is that state?
State Park.
That state?
Yeah.
Never mind.
Okay.
Let me know what you want to talk about.
It's a
that
road
week.
in that area.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
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 Okay.
You got like that much left and
Yeah, I was like, the one also on State Park that I finally got out to was the, what's it called, Ron Coleman.
Ron Coleman Trail?
And they did a fantastic job of like avoiding all the eroded parts now, and it's in much better shape than it ever was, but I think that's like 2 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
More than that. Yeah, Joe did some of that too, yeah.
Yeah, we spent some time up there with the clouds.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the only thing I would put in here, and I mentioned it earlier, is that the DOD is doing their thing out at the MLK property, so everybody should be aware of that. And going forward, I think just if you would keep that on the agenda, and I'll just keep my thumb on what's going on, and I'll just let you know, because, you know, if they find something, then they'll be, okay, we're closing a trail. It's like 99% chance they're never gonna find anything, but
So-
they gotta do it.
And you're referring to the DOD item?
It's, yeah, well, I don't know if we want to call it the
Remediation?
remediation, because right now it is just kind of a discovery. But I think we should just, since it's going to be ongoing for a while and it's going to impact the recreational use and the MLK area, we should just, you know,
Okay.
quick update on what
Got it.
anybody may have seen out there and what they are working on at that time.
Okay, you got it. I'll place it on there.
And I think that's it, just from observations from what we saw. So if there are no other observations, that takes us to identify future agenda items. All right, so Stephen, any future agenda items?
No, sir.
Nope.
no.
Nope.
No.
Coming up, so in the last city council meeting, there was a presentation from staff about boards and commissions. And I'd like to see if we can have an item to be involved in the process of the redefinition of OSAB going forward, and just see if we can have our input with that. Is there any way that can be distilled down into an item for maybe you know the necessary staff that's doing that process to come and talk with us about it?
Yeah, it appears that we could probably do that.
Okay.
Can
Yeah.
you talk more about like what was the context?
Okay, so back in January 22nd, City Council directed staff to look at all boards and commissions, and there are a lot of boards and commissions, and see what they can do to, I guess, make them more efficient and effective. I think that's the goal in the long run. And so at a recent City Council meeting, I think it was a work session, there were 2 items on that work session. And one of them was a presentation about the council's staff's findings about boards and commissions as far as what they could do to either consolidate them or redefine them in different ways, maybe address quorum concerns and things like that. And one of the items had to do with Open Space Advisory Board, which was separated out from the rest of the question. And so council deliberated specifically about Open Space Advisory Board and staff's direction going forward with that. And what they came up with was to redefine the duties of the board and also reduce our meetings to quarterly. I believe that's correct. So there's a process going on, and hopefully we can be involved in helping it go in the right direction, go in a direction that works for us. So.
Okay.
Yeah, if you have some time, watch that meeting. There's a lot of detail in it. It's like a 5-hour meeting. So
Yeah. But along those lines, so I have a number of items. The first one is, yes, I think we would like some, just even if it's just, here's what's going to happen, and you're not going to get any input, but just let us know what's going to happen. But obviously, if we're changing to 4, and we are, let us know so that we can figure out. And does that start now, or does it start next month?
So as of right now, actually, I'll defer to legal on this.
Yeah, the direction is to get, from leadership, is to get all these changes implemented by the end of the summer. And so I imagine where we'll be set to move to quarterly within the next couple months. And then on defining the scope, part of one of the things is they're moving all the boards. Some boards are done by ordinance and some boards are done by resolution. And so OSAB's done by ordinance, and so it'll be brought back by resolution. There'll be another thing is uniform bylaws, so all the boards are going to have like the same bylaws, follow the same bylaws, and that's what we're kind of seeing right now. Yeah, I think there'll be opportunities for the boards to have input on the scope. I know we had a meeting where we reviewed kind of the scope of OSAB with the staff, and I think kind of the only major change we maybe looked at was reducing, when you all look at certain zoning items that may not be, like I know there was one on Mesa Hills, if you remember that one, and it was an empty lot that didn't really make sense for you all to be. It wasn't really open space. It was just kind of an empty lot. So reducing that, but I don't think there should be too many other major changes at this point.
No, and I know when we went through the strategic planning process with the board, those have been relayed also for consideration as well, as we talked about.
Okay.
So I think a lot of those can be inputted as part of the process. But.
Okay, so then, since we're kind of future agendas, yeah, a future agenda item, yeah, let's talk about if it's quarterly, when does it start, and what month would we pick, that kind of stuff, so we make sure, obviously, if we have to be here, let's try to figure out a month that works for us.
Well, that as well, and then we would have obviously a future item to modify the schedule if.
Yeah.
So obviously, right now, we are still meeting monthly.
Okay, so it stays monthly. Now, the other thing, there seemed to be a lot of concern about quorum and people saying people weren't meeting quorum. I think this board's been pretty good until we started having the phone calls. So is a possible for an agenda item so we can vote to go- something like, every meeting we start off with, or the last 12 months, we've met quorum here, so that if we're starting to miss, we hear it that month, so we know we better get our butts in gear, that kind of thing?
So one of the things is, yeah, the board overall has been fairly good about meeting quorum. There have been a couple where we haven't been able to meet quorum. But I think it's also how the ordinance is written for open space, and frankly, I really like how it's written. Because a lot of boards, so there are 9 appointees, and for the board, a lot of boards require 5, but the way the open space one is written, it can actually have a quorum of 4, I believe. So I really like how that is written, but that is depending on how many people are appointed
Yes.
here. So right now, we do have 1 vacancy, so we do have 1, but we still have 8 appointees, so we're still required 5
Okay.
right now. But in case we ever go less than that, it does allow for a smaller quorum. We'll see how these new changes take effect on it.
Yeah, so again, for the agenda though, could we just have an agenda item where we vote to say, hey, we get a status of, last 12 months, here's how many times we met it, here's how many times we didn't, so that what I would hate to happen is, you miss 2 in a row or 3 in a row and people just start losing track, and all of a sudden it builds into something. So I would say, hey, you start every month off with, hey, we're 100%, or, we're 50%, we should be doing something along those lines. So I'd like to have some kind of vote where we just say, hey, we start the meetings off with, here's our attendance record.
Typically, that's not done in a board meeting, because, well, typically that's not on a board. I have no problem presenting that, maybe as an update, maybe a regular update to the board.
So yeah, as an update, but I just want to make sure we put it out there again. If we want the boards to be responsive, I think we got to make sure they know you're either on track or you're not on track. And so I'd like something every month to say, you're on track or you're not on track.
Okay, let me see what I can do to have a regular item on that.
Okay? Then the last thing, and this is the part that really concerns me. You're telling me, or I heard, that the water company says they're just not going to acquire any more land. And so I want that on an agenda item for next month, because I don't know how they can say, hey, we're going to keep the 10% money, but we're not going to acquire any more land. So I want that as an agenda item so that we can talk about it, or at least have them tell us how they can get there.
Okay, we'll get clarity on that.
Yeah, because
statement.
they stated that in the meeting. They just said, hey, we're not acquiring any more land. And then city council said, well, if they're not going to acquire any more land, what's the board going to do? And I'm sitting there thinking, how can they say they're not going to acquire land?
I think the point to remember is that there are different funding pots, and so I'm not sure which one they were talking of, because there's still my understanding is there's still quality of life funding money. Once that is done, then that's expends, that one's done, but there's still the 10% that is still
So-
ongoing.
So that, I would like that as an agenda item so they could clarify that.
Okay.
Because in hearing or listening to the meeting, I got the impression that city council left there with the impression that water company's not going to be acquiring any more land.
Okay.
And I don't think that's true, but I want to know that.
Okay. I believe next month is time for El Paso Water to give their quarterly update on their 10%, so I'll talk to them.
Okay, yeah, because I can tell you, all my open space friends, all the different entities that watch this, they're all, that raises a lot of eyebrows when they say that. So if we could get that as an agenda item. And I think all of those came out just from that one meeting. I don't know that I have anything else.
The status of the 300 acres for the Police and Fire Academy land.
Oh, yes.
If we can discuss that.
So there are obviously a lot of other updates, and those ones are not forgotten. I'll check with the appropriate staff and see when's an appropriate time, or we'll see if we're ready to come and give an update.
Okay, and so, for context, when it was kind of presented to us, it was 300 acres, but the facility was only going to actually have a footprint of 60, and the rest was going to be buffer zone. And so, at city council, they said something that they were going to continue to preserve the open space, but it's hard to determine whether they were talking about the stuff that was, was sort of sold, or were they talking about that buffer zone around the Police and Fire Academy? And so again, clarity on that topic would be great.
Okay, I'll work with staff and see what we can do, give you an update.
Okay.
Those are the only important things, I think, right now.
All right.
And then I'll keep following with staff on the items that were previously discussed, and they were on the minutes for May, and we'll carry those over
Okay.
for a follow-up.
All right. Anything else, guys? All good? Thank you all for showing up, because having heard that meeting, it's amazing how many boards don't have people who are showing up or are not doing their function, and I'm glad we have a board where people show up. So thank you for coming. All right. I think that's it. A motion to adjourn from someone?
Move to adjourn?
Lou?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. We are adjourned. Thank you all.